Hey there, fellow wanderers. As you step into the world of medieval times, the cool air wraps around you like a mysterious cloak, whispering secrets from centuries past. The narrow, cobbled streets are cloaked in a gentle fog, and the distant clatter of wooden wheels echoes in the night. The aroma of burning wood mingles with the earthy scent of damp stone, while the subtle glow of torches casts long shadows that dance on the ancient walls. This is not a fairy tale, but a journey into the essence of a world long gone, where beauty standards were as intricate and stark as the castles that punctuated the landscape. A high forehead wasn't just a birth trait, it was sometimes plucked into prominence. Pale skin signified wealth and nobility, while rosy cheeks hinted at health, or sometimes fever. Beauty was measured not just in appearance, but in virtue, in lineage, and in how one bore their burdens. And yet, for all its strict codes, it was still deeply human, ripe with contradictions, hope, and a touch of vanity. So before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. As you glide effortlessly into the heart of this era, imagine the flicker's warmth from a hearth reaching you. Here, beauty is not just what meets the eye, but a tapestry woven with norms and traditions, echoing through the halls of grand manors and humble cottages. Picture a world where standards of beauty were both a reflection of cultural ideals and a mirror of socio-economic status, binding communities in shared, albeit sometimes bewildering, perceptions. Consider the ideals that define beauty. Sculpted largely by societal beliefs and religious values, beauty was not a mere vanity, it was a symbol of virtue, nobility, and even health. In this medieval cosmos, pale skin was highly coveted, leading the elite to hide away from the sun or employ certain enhancements. The fairer your complexion, the purer, more noble you appeared. The sun-kissed tans of our modern beaches would be met with sighs of disapproval here, like turning up to a black tie event in a pair of flip-flops. The societal pursuit for fair skin introduced a peculiar concoction into the daily lives of those who could afford its alchemical wonders. Lead-based whitening creams were a surprising mainstay, their creators blissfully unaware of their toxic nature. Imaginably, historians still argue whether these creamy wonders did more harm than the aesthetic good they initially portrayed. Amidst this backdrop, natural beauty was an artful facade, a meticulous curation of cosmetics and remedies borrowed from nature's apothecary. In these shadowed times, beauty rippled beyond the corporeal and into the realm of symbolism. The idealized woman was not just fair of skin, but also demure and gentle, the very embodiment of chastity and grace. She was the living illustration of poetry, her virtues painted more fervently than her visage. This perception was echoed within illuminated manuscripts and storied tapestries, capturing ethereal elegance, hinting at how medieval beauty straddled a line between reality and unattainable ideal. Moving through this landscape, imagine your senses enlivened by sounds of distant lute strings or the muffled rustle of silk. Fashion of the times spoke volumes about one's place within society. A tapestry of contrasts. Some garments weighed heavy with golden threads, while others whispered humility in muted tones. Social classes paraded their fortunes or misfortunes for all to see. The drape, cut, and color of one's garb proclaimed one's story, a truth universally recognized with a single glance. And so here you are, standing on the threshold of medieval beauty, where elegance might be a matter of nature, nurture, or even the whim of monarchs. As candles dwindle and shadows stretch and yawn, let your imagination guide you through the winding pathways and timbered halls of a time where beauty was raw and regal, whispering stories both familiar and foreign to our contemporary senses. And as you wonder at the flickering glow of distant torches, allow the essence of this journey to seep into your consciousness, enriching your perspective and drawing parallels with the contours of your current realities. The beauty of this exploration lies not only in the tales told, but in the quiet connections forged across the decades, as you dream of a world a mosaic of legends and beliefs, painted in strokes both bold and subtle, illustrating the captivating allure that beauty held then and still holds now. As you delve deeper into the folds of medieval society, imagine the gentle clinking of a chatelaine's keys as she glides down a dimly lit corridor. Her image, softly illuminated by flickering candlelight, embodies the medieval ideal of feminine beauty. In this world, the complexion of a noblewoman was her canvas, pale and untouched by the harsh sun. It reflected not only her beauty, but her purity quality, as prized as a finely cut stone. Here, the ideal medieval woman was expected to exude a serene modesty, her pallor, a testament to her sheltered lifestyle. The pursuit of this ethereal fairness led to inventive, albeit questionable, practices. Indeed, it might make you chuckle to think how far people went to adhere to these ideals. To protect their skin from the sun's bronzing rays, women would wear wide-brimmed hats or carry ornately decorated parasols, recalling times when avoiding a tan was as vital as avoiding the plague. In the dim alcoves of abbeys, alabaster powders dusted the cheeks of women yearning for that ghostly glow. Mixed with everything from crushed pearls to mercurial concoctions, these powders were worn like armor against the ravages of age and the sun. The bustling marketplaces sold these beauty enhancers, with little acknowledgement of their potential dangers. As you might expect, there are still debates among scholars as to whether these practices were driven more by aspiration or desperation. The fascination with pallor extended beyond the face to include hairlines, quite literally. Fashioning an oval, moon-like visage meant plucking back one's hairline to achieve that high, regal forehead detail that may well draw a raised eyebrow or two. While you might prefer a fuller brow in today's world, medieval beauty emphasized subtraction over addition, considering the forehead to be a canvas for virtue and intellect. Imagine standing in front of a small, polished metal mirror, carefully manipulating the thin, sharp tools to meticulously retract your hair-linear beauty ritual, as meticulous as a knight's armor preparation. Continuing the medieval aesthetic journey, let's not forget the golden gleam of hair. Blonde was considered the ideal hair color, echoing the angelic paintings and religious icons of the time. Natural blondes were rare, hence, women would concoct their chemical dyes, with chamomile and saffron bathing strands to lighten them, an endeavor as time, consuming as an illuminated manuscript. Amidst candlelit evenings, and the quiet, flickering shadows, echoing with whispered tales of courtly love, beauty wasn't just external. It intertwined with the virtues a woman embodied chastity, patience, and humility. The notion of purity was both spiritual and physical, an enduring melody that defined the character as much as the complexion. What of makeup beyond the skin? Rouge, a silent blush with the whisper of berries or beet juice, added a hint of color to cheeks and lips when modesty allowed. Nonetheless, the natural approach of minimal color was cherished, cloaking ladies in the perception of an inborn, unearthly beauty. And as your mind wanders through the halls of time, picturing these ethereal figures moving serenely through their medieval landscapes, remember the unseen pressures of embodying such ideals. The eternal quest for beauty, cloaked in both light and shadow, dictated the artisan's hand crafting delicate veils, as well as the whispered advice of elder matrons guiding young maidens in euphemistic delicacy. The balance between what is delicate and what is desirable creates a captivating contrast, allowing us to view these ideals with curious fascination. While we chuckle at the lengths one might go to attain a desired look, it may reverberate with surprising familiarity, as the echoes of these ancient corridors remind us that in each age, beauty has demanded both sacrifice and creativity. The thought of standing in line at today's beauty counters suddenly seems less daunting, now that you've envisioned the myriad challenges met by those striving to capture their own stunning reflection in the eyes of medieval society. As your thoughts meander back to your present, remember the charm of pale complexity, the drama of high foreheads, and the sincerity sewn into the fabric of medieval life. In the tapestry of history, such details remind us that every beauty has its own peculiar narrative that continues to evolve, chapter by chapter. You continue your journey through medieval lands, where the hush of a cloistered garden and the distant clamor of a blacksmith's forge seem to mingle in the twilight air. Here, Amidst the rolling landscapes and fortified keeps, beauty also had its ideals for men. The medieval male aesthetic was a precise blend of strength and subtlety, echoed across fields of battle and courts of chivalry. Picture the scene. A knight dismounts from his steed, the heavy armor clinking softly as he walks. His visage is one of strength and discipline, marked by a strong jawline and broad shoulders. These attributes weren't just indicators of physical prowess, but were seen as harbingers of noble character and valor. Emerging from the darkened shadows of a grand hall, or charging forth in a tournament, the ideal man was expected to bear a noble countenance that reflected his virtue as much as his might. The medieval male appearance was often a canvas for showcasing power, and with power came its own style. Glance into the smoky depths of a baronial hall, and you might catch a glimpse of a tunic embroidered with family insignias, draping over the sinewy build of its wearer. Clothes were not just armor against the elements, but coats of arms against anonymity. They were statements sewn into cloth, declaring allegiance, prosperity, and identity, perhaps not too different from modern-day logos adorning designer clothes. Hair, though often hidden beneath helmets or caps, was another silent herald of status and attractiveness. A Burgundian knight or a Spanish lord might be recognized by their carefully styled locks, curled by primitive irons or washed with rosemary water for shine. Envision thick, lustrous hair signifying vitality and robustness, with scholars still debating whether those medieval manes bore comparison to our present-day obsession with grooming. Moving through candlelit corridors or across sun-dappled courtyards, medieval men were also judged by their grooming habits, a finer detail amid the call of drums and trumpets. Beards and mustaches ebbed and flowed in popularity, often dictated by the whims of royalty or the dictates of bishops. A well-groomed beard could suggest wisdom and authority, while clean-shaven faces exuded youthfulness and approachability. Thus, the medieval man was a chameleon, tailored not just for function but for the chronicles of medieval romance and legend, whispered over hearths long after the candles had burned low. Let's touch on another subject that marries the masculine with the mythic: strength. Scholars argue that muscles weren't just for hefting swords. The attractiveness of a well-built physique stemmed from its association with manual labor and outdoor pursuits indeed. Not every medieval Don Quixote sought to fight windmills, but strength was attractive nonetheless. So, whether toiling in the fields or riding into war, the merits of a robust form persisted across the do's and don'ts of medieval flirting. Then there were the eyes, those windows into the medieval soul that had their own language. Deep set or twinkling beneath thick brows, they could connote wisdom, bravery, and other cherished virtues. Each glance carried weight. A knowing wink or steely stare could win favor or berate fossa language less taught than intuited in those dimly lit chambers of history. Consider this. Beyond the physical, the ideal medieval man often embodied the chivalrous spirit, a tapestry woven with threads of honor, courtesy, and knightly duty. Picture a poetry-reading squire or a gallant knight offering his sleeve to a noble lady as they tread a path strewn with petals. In such moments, real or imagined, gallantry was as essential to male beauty as sinew and bone. But don't be fooled. Not every medieval man fit this classic mold. Variations wrinkled the tapestry of ideal appearances, demonstrating that individuality found its nook even amid the grand designs of beauty. These broader notions of attractiveness crafted a complex mosaic that bore some resemblance to our own multifaceted ideals today. Amidst these tales and traditions, one finds a timeless truth: beauty transcends physicality. For the medieval man, harnessing the mantras and steeds of yore, true allure lay equally in the mastery of his virtues as it did in the cut of his garment. Across the centuries, such ideals remind us that while time marches on, the narratives of beauty remain woven with threads both familiar and new, bridging past and present, as our journey through history's corridors continues. As the tapestry of medieval life unfurls before you, imagine the vibrant marketplace, bustling with the chatter of merchants and the clatter of hooves on cobblestones. In this swirl of activity, clothing does more than cover, it tells a tale. Step into this narrative, where what you wore was a badge of identity, proclaiming your social status louder than any words. In the medieval world, clothing was both a necessity and a luxury. interwoven with societal norms and expectations. The cut, fabric, and color of your garments didn't just keep you warm, they positioned you within a strict social hierarchy. As your senses soak in the rustic aromas of leather and wool, think of how these materials formed an intricate part of medieval survival. The rich donned silks and velvets, their color palettes as loud as a monastery bell. Bright hues like crimson and deep blue were not just pleasing to the eye, they were signals of wealth, as these colors were expensive to produce. The prevalence of sumptuary laws, decrees dictating who could wear what, ensured these vivid colors remained confined to the upper echelons of society. Imagine a world where your wardrobe is akin to a modern-day bank statement displayed for everyone to see and judge. Clothing also reflected one's profession or trade, a visual announcement as clear as a neon sign. Craftsmen wore simple but sturdy garb, while courtly attire, with its extravagant embellishments, rested softly on the shoulders of nobility. The clergy, cloistered away under their own veiled complexities, donned plain habits that whispered of devotion and academic rigor. Their robes, often spun from undyed wool, stood in contrast to the lavish garments of their song's patrons, the nobility. Amidst these garments, layers were essential, not just for warmth, but as a matter of fashion. A noblewoman might glide bejeweled through a banquet hall in up to 7 layers of fabric, each draping her frame with the skill of an artist. It's like peeling the layers of an onion, revealing the essence of one's style and wealth. The male noble was no less immune to this layered opulence, often sporting doublets padded and quilted with lavish textiles, designed to enhance his form, almost as if anticipating the Michelin Man by several centuries. The art of needlework also held celebrated significance. Embroidered fabrics not only showcased skill, but also served as a tactile narrative, weaving family history and heraldry through stitches. Picture a squire sewing badges onto a knight's surcoat, each representing battles won or virtues held dear. Sometimes, these narratives included designs echoing mystical thoughts or faith, a quiet reminder of the worlds composed just beyond the veil of visible reality. Amid the diverse threads of medieval attire lay footwear, chosen as much for its beauty as practicality. Distinct among them were the pointed shoes of the elite known as poulaines, lengthening until they were as much a weapon as footwear. Apparently, historians still argue over the nascence of this eccentric fashion. Was it purely aesthetic, or did those extravagant tips serve a more allegorical purpose, possibly reflecting moral and societal thresholds? As you wander beneath the web of medieval threads, consider how clothing also served a critical purpose in storytelling and myth-making. Robes and cloaks weren't merely garb, but banners striding through time artifacts that might end up as relics in museums, inviting you to time travel with linen and lace. Social and cultural dynamics morphed through the hues of these fabrics, and as such, garments were a conversational piece at the medieval dinner table before the cutlery even arrived. They confirmed status, whispered tales, and navigated the delicate dance between individuality and conformity. The attire of medieval times was a silent yet eloquent companion, narrating the life stories of its wearers, drawing an intricate map of societal order across the body's canvas. Through these layered intricacies, one sees reflections of our modern sartorial expressions, reminders that clothing, whether emblazoned in footnotes of a dusty tome or paraded down a fashion runway, continues to hold the timeless allure of identity, spirit, and the evolution of beauty. Imagine the windswept beauty of a medieval castle perched on a hill, its battlements silhouetted against the sky. In this setting, hair, whether peeking around a lady's wimple or flowing from beneath a knight's coif, was a symbolic thread woven through the complex tapestry of medieval beauty. The way one styled their hair was as much an art as the frescoes in a chapel, signaling everything from marital status to spiritual purity. Envision the ideal medieval woman, her hair cascading down like a waterfall of spun gold. In many regions, long, flowing locks were the height of femininity, a symbol of youth and vitality. Yet, for noble women, the public display of such tresses was reserved for special occasions. Daily life often saw hair swept up beneath exquisite headdresses. These headdresses, sometimes intricate with jewels and fabric, were both fads and heralds of modesty, embellishing the delicate balance between beauty and propriety as they ushered one into the hall or chapel. Think of the varied styles that dotted the landscape of the times, each region adding its twist. The braided elegance in braids of a French noblewoman, styled with fine ribbons, stood in stark contrast to the simpler knotted designs of English maidens. The Italian penchant for finely arranged curls with hints of intricate filigree served as evergreen inspiration that shimmered like abstract art against the rolling hills of Tuscany. Even among medieval manuscripts, you can sense the pride of craftsmen portraying each curl and braid with no less care than they would for a saint's halo. The color was another important factor. Blonde hair held a lure, often considered the ideal shade, likened to angels painted in the frescoes of sacred spaces. However, achieving this golden hue wasn't always natural. To emulate it, many turned to the alchemy of the time, using herbal elixirs and sun-bleaching methods akin to today's over-enthusiastic beachgoers with lemon juice. A mix of caution and sunlight created a spectacle fields of noblewomen beneath the rays, their hair coated in vinegar or tinted with saffron, as if engaging in a clandestine sunlit rite. Meanwhile, the male head of hair was a canvas, sculpted often by necessity, sometimes by choice. Knights and warriors might keep shorter styles, practical for the rigors of battle, but not devoid of style. Scholars and clergy favored longer styles, their tresses reflecting a distance from worldly concerns as they furrowed their brows over vellum pages. The hair spoke volumes, taking its cues from both helmets and hallowed halls. Across the dramatic backdrops of castle interiors and manor lawns, hair wasn't merely a personal expression. In some cloisters and abbeys, tonsures, cropped crowns with circles of shaved hair, symbolized faith and humility, a stark contrast to the elaborate styles intertwined with secular power. There was undeniably a theological thickness to every strand, resonating through the hearts of monasteries, where each follicle was a humble whisper against the collective shout of vanity. Noteworthy also are the hair accessories that emerged as minor celebrities in medieval fashion. Combs made from ivory or bone, painted with Celtic knots or moral parables, became both functional tools and heirlooms, every snarl tamed echoing a story shared through time. These accessories added luster to already opulent styles, symbolically grooming narratives of status and intention. Even today, reminders of these medieval hair conventions linger, like the shadows of turrets stretching at sunset. As present-day humans navigate their own beauty rituals, from color trends to coiffed artistry, they unwittingly trace the whispers of brushes long set down. So, as you continue to unravel the silky threads of medieval beauty, remember how each lock served as a narrative strand within the broader tapestry of identity, purity, and allure, a testament to the idea that beauty is a story continually woven, strand by strand, through time and culture. Picture yourself standing in a medieval marketplace, enveloped by the scents of herbs and spices, the air thick with the chatter of vendors peddling their wares. Among the merchants, hawking spices and textiles, others offer small vials and jars, each promising transformations as nuanced as any alchemist's endeavor. These are the ointments and tinctures of medieval skincare, where beauty and mysticism often shared the same shelf. In the shadowed stalls, sellers boast the virtues of their creams and unguents, each concoction a blend of nature's bounty and early science. Herbs like rosemary, thyme, and lavender fill the air with their woodsy fragrances, mingling with subtler notes of beeswax and almond oil. The balance between beauty and practicality was ever elusive, as blemish-free skin was a marker of health and Statusa biological canvas, cleansed and coaxed by ointments no less varied than the rainbow hues of a stained glass window. Imagine, if you will, a medieval lady seated at her vanity, a small polished mirror reflecting her delicate features lit softly by a single candle. She might choose from an array of potions, ranging from pastes derived from ground barley to lotions infused with rosewater, each layered with hope and the promise of transformation. A whitening mask, perhaps composed of egg whites mixed with ground chalk, would harden on her face, lifting impurities not just from her skin but, she hoped, from her soul. These practices, threaded with the belief that invoking nature could reveal one's inner beauty, mirrored the era's melding of science and superstition. Such beliefs sometimes translated into odd application-spuried pigeon parts or fish entrails, for instantian, indication of the lengths one might go for the ephemeral glow of youth. And while you might chuckle at their archaic methods, remember that this desire to capture beauty transcends centuries, each era devising its own peculiar rituals. The search for the perfect complexion often ventured into murkier waters. Concoctions claiming miraculous effects on aging and blemish-free skin could include anything from honey, enduring classicto, more noxious blends containing lead or mercury. Historians still debate whether these dangerous ingredients were the result of ignorance or desperation, the cost of beauty weighing heavy on the scales of risk and reward. Bear in mind, though, that skincare extended beyond the elite. Country folk relied on local herbs and simple remedies passed down through generations, their recipes stitched into the fabric of oral tradition. Stinging nettles boiled away their sting to leave cleansed skin behind, and oatmeal, the breakfast staple, doubled as a gentle exfolianter tip, perhaps to rival today's finest spa treatments. For the medieval man, grooming often followed a different but no less deliberate path. A barber surgeon might offer a tonic to cleanse the skin post-shave, a marriage of form and function where cleanliness equated with attractiveness, as much a part of armor as a knight's breastplate. The quest for beauty also found expression in the wise woman's lore, her garden a pharmacy of the land, dandelion water for spots, sage as a toner, and vinegar rinses, cleared complexions beneath pointed caps practices, painstakingly captured and shared across parchment and gatherings. Such knowledge, often dubbed women's secrets, was guised in mystery and guarded in domestic haven. Through this lens of lotions and potions, we glimpse the enduring heritage of beauty rituals, where ancient wisdom mingles with contemporary trends. Consider your thoughts as you stroll past aisles of modern serums and scrubs, their timeless allure promising an echo of medieval remedies. And as you stir your tiny cauldron of modern skincare, remember those who preceded you, quietly trusting in the power of nature and the artistry of alchemy. These vials and jars, cradled in the hands of time, remind us that as much as things change, they often remain achingly familiar. The beauty pursued within those medieval walls reflects our own journeys, each ritual a shared story whispered by the sands of time, inviting you to partake in its mysterious allure. Envision the softly lit interior of a medieval chamber, where the flickering light from a tallow candle casts elongated shadows across the stone walls. It's here, amid the sparsely furnished room and the presence of stained glass reflections, that the beauty rituals of the past come into vivid focus. For many, beauty was an endeavor as much about endurance as it was about aesthetics, echoing the age-old mantra, "Beauty is pain." Imagine an array of tools and concoctions laid out on a wooden table, each poised to transform, with medieval men and women willing to endure much in their pursuit of the ideal appearance. Frames of bone and metal, rudimentary and intimidating, were used in procedures like hair plucking and shaping, where the quest for thin, well-arched eyebrows was pursued with determination that might elicit an empathetic wince from the modern viewer. In an era before numbing creams, the process of plucking brows and removing unwanted hair was a test of fortitude. Picture women, in particular, tracing fine lines with string or early tweezers, each pluck a quiet assertion of control over the chaos of beauty. It's here that a certain camaraderie might blossom among listeners, remembering that today's waxing sessions and threading treatments share roots with these ancient rituals. The medieval fascination with achieving a flawless complexion drove some to endure facial applications and masks that hardened uncomfortably or tightened unforgivingly. Think of masks blending alum with vinegar, merging science and myth in their promise to tighten the skin. As facial muscles stiffened under these rigid concoctions, the pursuit of smooth skin became a testament to resolve. Among the medieval method, arsenal was the practice of cupping, where glass or ceramic cups placed upon the skin and suctioned onto the flesh as a supposed remedy for a myriad of ailments and impurities. In this noisy echo chamber, the marks left behind might be likened to medieval badges of honor, a little like the bruises recognized and respected in modern-day cupping circles. A particularly peculiar beauty practice involved the teeth. The ultimate aim was a bright smile and endeavor pursued quite differently from your daily toothpaste ritual. Powders composed of pumice stone or charcoal, sometimes combined with wine, were the toothpastes of the day, abrasive but effective at whitening tooth enamel while unfortunately wearing it down over time. The dentition of a medieval smile, a prize too often claimed at great cost, was a silent conversation starter that spanned all classes. Historians still argue whether these painful beauty practices were powered more by cultural obsession or individual aspiration. Yet, standing here in the shadowy glow of medieval invention, you can almost hear the echoes of determination whispering across the ages, uniting centuries in a shared knowledge of sacrifice for the sake of appearance. Procedures were complemented, as well, by the whispers of remedies etched into family grimoire as one might scribble recipes, a lineage of advice transcending time and space. These remedies were updated the same way you'd update an app, perpetually refined as new knowledge or ideas took root. It's worth noting that not every medieval trend leaned toward pain. Some embraced natural oils for moisture or wraps for soothing influence, drawn from the same nature that inspired remedies across every continent. The grit of exfoliants mirrored past geology. Pumice, laden waters, caressing tired skin, river stones smoothened by decades of flow. Much like a walk through the woods refreshes the spirit, so too did these rituals aim to balance pleasure with agony, delivering beauty unto its bearer. As the candle flame flickers lower, casting dancing shadows upon your thoughts, ponder for a moment the journey from these rudimentary tools to present times. In each moment of discomfort or reflection, we're gently reminded that beauty's path is not always a glowing promenade, but rather a patchwork quilt of trials and triumphs, each stitch a reminder of our shared history. Remember, within these walls of stone and mirrors, it was not just about the surface reflection, but the resilience and fortitude echoed loudest within a testament to the timeless nature of striving for and understanding beauty's complex tapestry, a journey as challenging as it is rewarding. Imagine entering a great hall, rich with laughter and the clink of chalices, where tapestries of vibrant hues hang from the stone walls. In this medley of color and conversation, you find another layer of beauty jewelry and adornment. These shining treasures, music to the eye, offered both aesthetic allure and profound symbolism within the medieval narrative, each piece a pendant of personal and social significance. Visualize noblemen and women, adorned with glittering gems and precious metals, their presence enhanced by the shimmer of candlelight catching the facets of their adornments. Earrings, necklaces, brooches, and rings were more than mere decorations. They were declarations of power, wealth, and lineage. Much like the family crest woven into a lord's banner, the jewelry worn by the medieval elite was an outward symbol of identity and status. Gold, considered the most divine of metals, was often wrought into intricate patterns, its luster a representation of faith and purity. Crowns and tiaras, studded with jewels, you might notice jaw-dropping sapphires or vibrant emeralds encircled noble heads with a weight both literal and symbolic. The design of these pieces often incorporated religious themes or heraldic motifs, offering a mix of fashion and devotion that danced along Gothic arches of sovereignty. Then there were rings, those small circles of metal so powerful in what they signified. Rings were given as tokens of love, loyalty, and allegiance, and were seen as much in palisades as they were in political courts. They often bore inscriptions, the artful script whispering verses of love or spiritual invocations, stories that falteringly transformed mere metals into message-bearers across hearts and homes. Consider necklaces and pendants, too. Dangling just above the heart, they were often imbued with religious significance, combining the aesthetic with the metaphysical, and perhaps hinting at the wearer's ideals. A cross, or icon, composed of shimmering stones or angling metal, proclaimed faith as strongly as it did fashion. In essence, each piece was a microcosm of devotion, intimacy, and personal narrative. Of particular note are the brooches, practical as well as decorative. They held together the voluminous layers of clothing draped over those in medieval society. But when adorned with gemstones and engraved with fine designs, their purpose dabbled equally in the functional and the aesthetic. Picture a finely wrought brooch pinning a cloak in place, its gems reflecting the cool blues of a twilight sky, vivid punctuation mark on the full sentence of a robe-heavy sentence. Beyond the visual brilliance, jewelry could also serve as a form of currency or investment, a mobile treasury in times marked by uncertainty and change. In this way, Jewels functioned as both wealth and safeguard, an enduring assurance clasped around a neck or set within delicate fingers. Yet not all adornments shone with metallic gleam. Hairpieces crafted from flowers or woven ribbons added softness and femininity, echoing the pastoral beauty embraced in medieval poetry and song. Materials like leather or wood, carved with care, bore resonance within different walks of life, from the opulent to the humble. Their importance marked as much by skill as substance. Some curious traditions related to jewelry also surfaced in this era. There's a whisper, passed through the corridors of time, that some noblewomen took to wearing beetles or other insects encased in golder fashionable oddity that, were it not documented in the annals of the curious, could sound like mere legend. As you let your imagination roam through the halls of medieval splendor, take a moment to appreciate how these adornments were more than superficial finery. Their placement and meaning created an intricate tableau where every piece was layered with rich subtext, narrating social roles and personal histories alike. Like the ornate jewelry boxes themselves, these treasures encapsulated stories handed down through generations tales, not only glimmering with beauty, but reflecting light upon the values, beliefs, and aspirations of their wearers. From these chambers of antiquity, the art of adornment continues to inspire, reminding us of the perennial human impulse to signify identity and meaning through objects that capture light as surely as they capture our stories. As moonlight filters through the stained glass of a grand cathedral, painting the floor with a dance of colors, you find yourself in the presence of a silent yet powerful figure of medieval times, the church. Here, in this hallowed space, the influence of the church over beauty standards was as profound as it was pervasive. It whispered its doctrines through every corridor of society, shaping notions of beauty as strongly as they shaped morality. In an era when the majesty of cathedrals rivaled that of castles, the church's teachings wove themselves into the fabric of daily life, dictating the rhythms of both prayer and personal grooming. Religious leaders, clad in robes of muted splendor, preached the virtues of humility and chastity, ideals that were echoed in the expectations of medieval beauty. Those ideals were not just reflections of personal aesthetics, but became embodiments of spiritual purity and virtue, creating a canvas where beauty was a virtue to pursue with saintly devotion. In these dim-lit spaces, there emerged a representation of beauty less concerned with earthly charms and more with heavenly ideals. Women were encouraged to embody the virtues of the Virgin Mary, her ethereal grace and modesty becoming the touchstone for femininity. The Marian ideal, a combination of humility, compassion, and purity, spiraled into society, shaping standards that praised modesty and inner beauty over adornment and sensual appeal. For men, tales of saintly courage and sacrifice echoed from pulpits, drawing parallels between noble knighthood and divine duty. The chivalrous deeds extolled in sermons lent an air of celestial splendor to the rugged features of a knight, intertwining physical strength with loyalty and honor. Thus, beauty was not only an attribute, but a manifestation of one's moral compass, reflecting the divine by echoing its tenets across social realities. However, the church's sway also carried a cautionary tone toward vanity, seeing it as a deviation from spiritual clarity. The quest for beauty, if ventured too far, was likened to stepping off the righteous path of belief, encapsulated in parables and warnings, theology that permeated popular tales like an omnipresent moral gloss. Maintaining this balance was akin to walking a tightrope strung between piety and pride, a delicate dance that continues to echo through time. The confessional became not only a place of absolution but a setting where discussions on worldly temptations, such as excessive concern with personal appearance, unfolded beneath the frescoed ceilings. In those moments of introspection, individuals weighed the merits of their grooming practices, comparing their actions against the weight of eternal consequences, kind of moral tally sheet reflected by faces lit by the flickering votive. Historians still argue about the extent to which the church's perspective colored societal concepts on beauty, with debates continuing over how much of this influence was direct edict versus societal interpretation. Yet, even in this gentle discord, one cannot deny the depth of the church's shadow upon the landscape of medieval ideals, casting reflections as surely as light casts shades. The artistry within church walls also played a role. Illuminations in religious manuscripts, frescoes, and sculptures presented canonized figures with an otherworldly beauty. Think serene expressions carved in alabaster or serene smiles painted in harmonious colors. These artistic standards subtly nudged societal expectations, with divine representations trickling down into earthly aspirations. Moreover, the church held the key to education and literacy, guiding how beauty was recorded and remembered. Monastic scribes, bent over their desks, traced not only sacred texts but also the ethos of beauty, entwining spirituality and aesthetics in manuscripts that sang with illustrations and gilded letteringa, harmony of the celestial within the secular. In these medieval chapels, under the vaulted arches, beauty became an extension of faith, a reflection not merely of form but of spirit. As the rays of a new dawn stretch across the heavens, the ideological frameworks established by the medieval church resonate quietly within modern hearts, whispering mysteries of aesthetic exploration entwined with virtue, reminding us that beauty, in its truest form, transcends corporeal boundaries, bridging the gap between the terrestrial and the divine. As you wander deeper into the medieval tapestry, let the vibrant hues of a bustling market greet you, where merchants from distant lands showcase exotic wares. Here, you witness a rich array of cultural exchanges, as diverse as the languages spoken by the traders. In this lively mosaic of commerce and conversation, you find that medieval beauty standards were as varied as the regions of the map, each with its own unique interpretation of allure. In the sun-drenched courts of Italy, the ideal beauty was as vibrant as a Venetian carnival. Golden locks and sun-kissed skin were admired, cherished as reflections of vitality and prosperity. Italian women often employed lemon juice and sun exposure to enrich their tresses and tan their skin, an endeavor that would have drawn frowns in the cooler, pale-preferring north. In these sunlit piazzas, beauty rituals were a dance of indulgence, where cosmetics blended with the natural climate like melody and harmony. Cross over the rugged mountains into France, and you'll encounter whispers of romance and sophistication. French beauty standards gravitated toward delicate features and refined elegance, like the gentle lines crafted in their Gothic architecture. Rouges, lip stains, and powders echoed the rosiness of hidden blushes and concealed secrets, as beauty found its muse in the subtle charms of vulnerability and with a kind of mystique still echoed in modern aesthetics. Turn toward the Germanic regions, where fair skin became a defining standard, shaped by the chillier climes and cultural myths. Blonde hair was celebrated, akin to angelic representations found in cathedrals. Beauty mirrored in the shimmering waters of the Rhine or the snow-capped peaks that stood as guardians over this realm. Northern winds inspired styles of functionality with a hint of flourish, braids, and neat plaits, gracefully supporting the brisk, industrious lifestyle. In England, where regions were equally vast and varied, the beauty was interlaced with royalty and the countryside's tapestry. The English roses were prized for their fair complexion and gentle demeanor, encapsulated in sonnets and the courtly love poems that filled oak-chambered rooms. Yet, close along the coasts, exposure to seafaring cultures meant a blending of styles and shades, of customs intertwining from Norse to Norman, creating layered ideals that reflected both lineage and legend. As you venture to Moorish Spain, a confluence of Islamic, Christian, and Jewish influences infused the peninsula with a rich kaleidoscope of beauty ideals. Deeply carved eyebrows and dark, expressive eyes complemented intricate garments and complexions bronzed by the Mediterranean sun. The grandeur of Alhambra echoed in their fineries, where sensuality and sophistication intertwined like silk threads, creating narratives that transcended borders of belief and geography. Beyond the climes of Western Europe, the Byzantine Empire boasted a legacy steeped in cultural fusion, where beauty was as resplendent as the mosaics that adorned its churches. Dark hair and olive skin reflected the warmth of the eastern climate, complementing the ornate jewelry and textiles woven with gold, a testament to a legacy that cherished opulence and spiritual depth in equal measure. For medieval Scandinavia, beauty was more intertwined with natural elements: windswept cheeks, flushed with vitality, hair often braided in patterns aligned with kinship signals or tribal lore. It reflected the rugged living of Norse fairy tales, where practicality and power walked hand in hand with the ethereal light of the long northern days. Here, the beauty was a whispered promise of endurance and ancestry. Yet, within each region, individual variation and personal expression sang through the fabric of collective ideals, a harmony of distinct voices echoing an ever-evolving understanding of beauty. These regional variations tell stories passed from mother to daughter, dances between tradition and transformation, painting the medieval period as a rich mosaic of shifting hues and practices. The blending of cultural aesthetics and practical adaptations proves that beauty, as resilient as a tapestry strung from ancient looms, transcends its surface to embody its time and place. And as the moon casts its silver glow upon each cultural jewel of the medieval world, remember that these diverse beauty standards reflect not just appearance, but shared histories and philosophies, evolving through the ages to become mirrors that continue to echo the quiet music of their past. As the medieval world unfolds before you, layers of artistry come alive, painting the landscape with tales of beauty woven through the annals of art and literature. Picture entering a scriptorium, its silence punctuated only by the gentle scratch of quills over parchment, where monks illuminate manuscripts with intricate designs as vibrant as peacock feathers. Here, among the golden strokes and divine etchings, the depiction of beauty begins its journey from the realm of the ideal into cherished narrative. In these laborious creations, saints and sinners alike dance upon the pages, embodied in forms that convey both beauty and morality. Illuminations bring forth ethereal figures with impossibly perfect features, their hair golden and skin luminous. Every line, arching gracefully across the page, reflects a grace and virtue that transcends mortal life, each illustration a testament to divine or royal grace, setting standards that sang through cloisters and courts. Travel alongside these pages and find yourself in the midst of grand tapestries hanging in royal halls. Here, the weave depicts scenes of piety and passion, with figures clothed in garments that symbolize their status and virtue. The elegance of form can be seen in the gentle slope of a neck or the gracefulness of a hand, showing beauty as much through gesture and poise as through face or figure. These woven stories speak volumes in silence, echoing notions of what is revered and idealized in that time. Turn now to the artistry of stone and paint, where medieval sculpture and artwork etch beauty into the permanence of stone or onto the transient canvas of wood panels and plaster. Statues and paintings in churches, like the Notre Dame de Paris or San Vitale, capture figures that combine beauty with divinity. Their expressions are serene, their postures poised, mirroring a celestial perfection that earthly realms endeavor to imitate. Glide into the realm of medieval literature, where beauty finds its voice in the words penned by poets and troubadours. The lays of Marie de France, for example, sing of beauty, intertwined with love and honor, enveloping virtues in romance and loyalty. Likewise, Geoffrey Chaucer's tales paint portraits of medieval life, with beauty sketched in shades of wit and wisdom, a reflection of both envy and admiration in taverns and courtrooms alike. In those lyrical lines, beauty is not just a motif, but an agent, driving narratives and inspiring aspirations. Within Arthurian legends, the fair Guinevere or the tragic Iseult embody ideals transcending both time and realm, shaping an understanding of beauty that is simultaneously immanent and elusive, radiant as it is complex. Even in the far corners of illuminated maps, the detailed portrayal of distant lands and exotic creatures embraces a kind of beauty that ignites curiosity, urging explorations beyond the known world. These landscapes are dressed in allure, inviting travelers to seek the world's wonders enduring, as reminders of a time when maps were as much about imagination and artistic flair as geography. Each portrayal, whether in color-soaked manuscripts, lyrical stanzas, or inlaid carvings, provides portals to the past, guiding us through interpretations of beauty that blend aesthetic ideals with moral tenets. These mediums illustrate not only the prevailing standards of their age, but also the complex conversations between art, spirituality, and the self. As night deepens outside the mullioned windows, candles flicker lower, casting shadows that animate these medieval stories into life. In these artistic expressions, beauty transgresses time, weaving a delicate thread that continually seeks the balance between idealization and human experience. This duality, captured by the quill and the brush, whispers that while our modern interpretations may evolve, the essence of beauty remains, cast like stars across the canvas of human expressiona, timeless motif in the ever-spinning wheel of art and life. Feel the calm hush fall over you as you wander through the hallowed cloisters of a medieval abbey, where the air is perfumed with the quiet scent of incense and ancient stones enfold the space in reverent silence. Within these consecrated walls lies the pursuit and ideal of puritia, concept threading itself into the fabric of the time, shaping lives and moulding perceptions of beauty. In an age entwined with the sacred and the secular, purity was not just a spiritual aspiration, but a defining feature of beauty. Purity was sought after like the Holy Grail, a quality woven into the gestures, gazes, and even the garments of those seeking to embody an ideal both physical and metaphysical. Imagine young maidens and men of virtue as they tread softly through these sacred halls, their footsteps blending into the steady chant of prayers, each echoing the sanctity they aspired to reflect in appearance as much as in soul. The notion of purity reached beyond mere innocence. It extended into the realm of the ethereal. Women were expected to exhibit a demeanor of chastity and modesty, their beauty framed by humility and gracie attributes that conjured visions akin to angels in illuminated manuscripts or reflected in stained glass depictions. From chaste auras and serene expressions to saintly virtues, beauty was as much about moral character as it was about physical form. For some, maintaining purity meant a devotion not only to spiritual practices, but also to the ways in which they presented themselves. Cloistered away from the temptations of worldly life, nuns embodied this ideal in its most overt form. Veiled and draped in simple habits, they transcended earthly beauty, becoming living icons of the heavenly aspirations that flickered like candlelight against cathedral walls. In quest of crystalline purity, the materials that adorned the body also came into play. Linen and wool, unadorned and unembellished, whispered of modesty and simplicity, drawing connotations of cleanliness and solemnity. The flowing lines of plain robes against rugged landscapes personified an understated elegance, an aesthetic embracing function while remaining mindful of spiritual grace. But purity was not merely reserved for women. Men, too, were subjects of its pursuit in the moral arena. Knights, steeped in the ideals of chivalric honor, held purity as a code for noble action and pious heart-san expectation mirrored, intriguingly enough, by the dazzling sheen of armor, polished until it reflected the purity of their intent. Their gallant deeds and unwavering loyalty were woven into legends as enduring as the stars, depicting beauty in courage and integrity as much as in form or feature. Yet, amidst an age that prized purity's glow, the reality of its embodiment posed a complex challenge. Scholars often debate how these ideals influenced real lives, the people standing in sharp relief against the expectations of the tapestry woven by the Church's hand. Still, woven within these idols were the real textures of human nature, layered narratives twining around aspirations to remain unsullied while grounded upon an earthly plane. Think of purity, even in dietary restrictions and hygienic practices that were perceived to cleanse both body and soul. The notion of fasting, coupled with rituals of purification, mirrored attempts to brush away spiritual stains, much like one might clear away cobwebs from castle cornice, a testament to the time's entwining of physical and spiritual realms. As you traverse the cloisters in your mind, casting shadows across centuries of striving for beauty, reflected in purity, consider how these ideals ripple through time, coloring not only the age they emerged from, but leaving vestiges in our modern-day pursuit of wellness and wholeness. Beauty, framed by purity, stands in quiet reverence within the time-lapse of a geisha, touchstone of infinite simplicity, complexity, and aspiration that continues to illuminate the path toward an ever-elusive ideal. The gentle morning light filters through the medieval landscape, unhindered by time, casting soft hues upon the landscape where beauty is juxtaposed with the pulse of life physical health. In this era, the connection between beauty and health was not merely skin-deep, but deeply rooted in the vitality and vigor one exuded, silently entwining appearance with the lived experience of the body. Imagine a society where the rhythms of life echoed with the cadence of nature, where people moved in tandem with the changing seasons and weathered the elements with resilience. Health was a currency in its own right, exchanged through the visible rosiness of cheeks or the robust nature of one's form, as much a reflection of beauty as it was an indicator of social standing. In villages and cities alike, a healthy complexion signaled strength and vitality, qualities celebrated in pastoral poems and grand ballads. Picture walking through bustling marketplaces or tranquil meadows, where the vibrancy of life thrived in the health of its people. The ruddy glow of a farmer's sun-kissed complexion or the sturdy stance of a craftsman reflected more than just hard work. They embodied an ideal where beauty and health were inextricably linked, each signifying prosperity and fecundity. A robust constitution was praised, admired as a hallmark of good fortune and natural balancia, timeless archetype of attraction. Diet and physical activity played their parts in enhancing this perception of beauty rooted in health. The medieval diet, though limited by seasons and bountifulness, provided necessary sustenance derived from the land. Grains, meats, and vegetables supported not just survival, but a natural abundance. Despite the medieval penchant for lavish feasts among the elite, moderation was also valued, tied to the appreciation of a well-proportioned figure. The natural order saw people engaging regularly in physical tasks that bolstered their bearing and constitution. From tending fields to skilled labor, these activities served as the gymnasiums of the time, naturally sculpting energy and endurance into the everyday person. Medicine and healthcare practices of the period also played pivotal roles in shaping the link between health and beauty. Herbal remedies, passed through generations, formed the core of communal health knowledge, blending nature's gifts with folklore. Feverfew for headaches, willow bark for pain, all whispers of apothecaries' wisdom cradled within earthen phials and wooden shelves. Holistic approaches intended to restore balance were the precursors to wellness trends seen today. Then there were the ancient beliefs that saw health as a mystical balance of elements and humors within the body. The sanguine, phlegmatic, choleric, and melancholic temperaments were not just personality traits, but fundamental to understanding health. Maintaining balance among these humors was considered key to well-being, with beauty seen as a reflection of this harmony, like the harmonious symmetry of rose windows in cathedrals, casting colored light upon stone floors below. Even within the castle's protective walls, rulers valued health as much as territory. Knights undergoing rigorous training developed physiques, admired not just for combat prowess, but as exemplars of masculine beauty. The rallying cry, "A healthy knight is a mighty knight," resounded through tourneys and chronicles alike, a celebration of form and function encapsulated within the steel frame of armor mirror to the chivalric spirit within. And as your thoughts drift through these layers of medieval understanding, you might notice familiar echoes in today's world, where the glow of health remains an attractive quality, timelessly reflecting the intersection of wellness and attractiveness. While filters and gym memberships may color modern pursuits, the core belief that vitality enhances beauty is as old as the ideals etched into medieval manuscripts. So, as you wander back to the present from these medieval landscapes, consider how perceptions of health and beauty are eternally intertwined, each shaping and shadowing the other, with an enduring legacy that continues to pulse beneath the skin of culture and consciousness, echoing the ever-evolving definition of what it means to be truly beautiful. As you meander through the labyrinth of medieval imaginings, the notion of beauty does not pause with youth or vitality. It unfurls into a contemplation of aging, and how individuals strive to retain this coveted essence as the years drew lines upon their brows. The medieval period, much like today, held aging in a complex embrace, weaving both reverence and resistance into the fabric of its culture. Picture an elderly matron in her time-honored garden. Her hands, though weathered, tend to the same earth that nourished her ancestors. Her presence exudes wisdom and allure that transcends youthful beauty. Yet, alongside the reverence for age, flowed a current of anxiety, an ancient refrain echoing our own modern concerns about growing older. In this mosaic of medieval life, beauty's relationship with age was nothing short of paradoxical. while the timeless beauty of youth was celebrated with the fervor of courtly poetry, the inevitability of aging imposed its quiet narrative. Society revered the wisdom and experience that age brought, assigning dignity and gravitas to the older members of the clan. This wisdom was akin to a library of lived truths, silent yet profoundly influential, beauty less about features and more about presence, a silent echo of the eternal. In medieval literature, the juxtaposition of youthful beauty and the inevitability of aging danced like a shadow play in many narratives. Characters often weighed their youthful exuberance against the wisdom of those who had seen many seasons pass. These tales mirrored societal perceptions, where aging was less a thief dragging beauty's mantle away and more a revelatory artist, replacing it with strokes of dignity and grace. Yet, attempts to stave off the physical manifestations of age were not unheard of. Medieval skincare regimens often contained remedies aimed at preserving the vibrancy of youth. Masks composed of honey, milk, and herbal infusions were believed to soothe and rejuvenate the skin. Elderberries and nettles found their way into concoctions meant to keep the telltale signs of aging at bay, a notion harking back to the timeless belief in nature's restorative abilities. The pursuit of eternal youth was not bound within cosmetics alone, but extended into medieval medicine. Alchemists and apothecaries delved into the arcane, seeking the elusive philosopher's stone, not just for its promise of transforming lead into gold, but for its rumored ability to bestow immortality. Such quests, shrouded in mystery and whispered through the corridors of courts, reveal an eternal yearning for life, unbound by time. Within monastic walls, monks and scholars pondered aging as they pored over texts, seeking both spiritual and temporal understanding. To them, aging was viewed as an ascent towards enlightenment, where the transience of physical beauty became a step in the journey towards eternal wisdom, a route less travelled but no less revered. Even the tales of chivalric romance encapsulated the ephemeral dance of beauty and age. Knights, their valour as fresh as their youthful countenances, embarked upon quest to symbol of life's fleeting passage, and of beauty both lost and found along the way. As the story goes, wisdom and maturity ultimately crowned the adventures, echoing through the annals of time as the true treasure unearthed. So, as the reflective surface of a medieval mirror, perhaps polished metal, or still water casts its gaze upon aging faces, it refracts, not decay, but an ebb and flow that the medieval world wove into its very being. In the delicate balance of wisdom and appearance, one perceives a nuanced understanding of beauty's journey, a narrative that ages with grace and reverence, adding layers to the complexity of human allure. As you return to the present, consider how these medieval beliefs about aging and beauty still reverberate in our world today. The ever-evolving dialogue between youth and maturity continues to whisper ancient tales into our consciousness, weaving an understanding of beauty that acknowledges the grace of age, even as it celebrates the timeless nature of youth. As you step further into the labyrinthine corridors of medieval thought, following the scent of herbs and the gentle murmur of ancient incantations, you stumble upon the world of potions and elixirs, concoctions meant to enhance beauty through magic and nature. In a time when science intertwined seamlessly with the supernatural, potions were as much a part of daily life as they were subjects of curiosity and myth, bearing the stamp of both apothecary and alchemist. Imagine entering a shadowy apothecary shop, the shelves lined with mysterious jars and vials glistening in the flickering light of a lantern. These establishments, stewed with the aromas of dried herbs and exotic spices, were repositories of both knowledge and speculation. Here, ingredients from local gardens mingled with rare imports, each promising to unlock the secrets of the universe or, at the very least, bestow a touch of beauty. Crafted with a blend of cynicism and belief, beauty potions were nothing short of a chemistry lesson mixed with a hint of magic. At the heart of many concoctions were botanical elements: rosehip, chamomile, and lavender, revered for their soothing and beautifying properties. Such herbal ingredients were the progenitors of modern skincare, flourishing in an era where the natural world was believed to hold the key to aesthetic perfection. Beyond herbs, more peculiar ingredients found their way into these mystical brews: snail slime, crushed pearls, and even gold dust each ingredient, as precious as it was perplexing, were employed in beauty rituals, creating potions rich in mystery and allure. Picture a noble woman dabbing her skin with an elixir containing gold, believing it to impart radiance and ethereal glow, a practice that might raise eyebrows today but was revered in medieval beauty lore. Among the most famous of medieval concoctions was aqua mirabilis, a wondrous water infused with an array of spices and herbs, believed to rejuvenate and invigorate. This tonic, which could easily count alchemy among its origins, was said to improve complexion and preserve youthfulness, a promise as enchanting as a troubadour's melody. It's a historical reminder that the pursuit of beauty has always been steeped in the tantalizing hope of an elixir capable of capturing time within its crystalline depths. Yet, potions extended beyond mere physical embellishments, weaving themselves into the realm of love and spiritual beauty. Love potions, crafted with whispered hopes and ancient recipes, linked beauty with attraction and desire. These potions, often composed of potent herbs like yarrow and vervain, whispered tales of courtly love and clandestine glances, concocted to gently nudge the heart's desires from mere interest to ardor. The role of magic lingered like a spectre in the medieval world. Spellbound amulets and potions promised not only to beautify the wearer, but also to protect their charms from the envy-stricken eye, using protective herbs like juniper and wormwood. Sorcery and superstition, interwoven within the fabric of life, added an elusive sheen to beauty, framed by talismans crafted under moonlit skies. The influence of alchemy, too, can be traced through these elixirs, dipping into the wellspring of transformation for which it was renowned. Scholars still argue about whether alchemy was mere proto-capitalistic endeavor or a serious scientific pursuit. Its practitioners probed at the very nature of substances, seeking to distill purity and beauty alongside theoretical gold and immortality endeavors, symbolic of the human desire for enhancement. And in this kaleidoscope of nature and mysticism lay an artistic opportunity, whereby communities crafted rituals and remedies that traversed generations, each gravitating toward the shimmering promise of beauty, unfurling across the canvas of human experience. In the modern era, echoes of these medieval practices remain, their allure captured within the bottles lining today's skincare aisles. The narrative of potions and elixirs invites us to remember that the quest for beauty is as much an internal journey discovering hope and aspiration as it is an external transformation. Remember that the medieval search for beauty through potions was not merely about appearances, but formed a bridge joining science and magic, past and present, a reminder that, throughout time, beauty has been a stirring mystery, a delicate potion of aspiration spiced with the wonder of discovery. As you continue your journey through the medieval landscape, where arches and shadows whisper tales of times long past, you glimpse an aspect of beauty that dances firmly on the edge of societal norms, the fluidity of gender and its influence on beauty standards. In an era defined by its strict hierarchies and roles, the rules of gender did not always confine the aspects of personal expression and allure. Imagine strolling through cobblestone streets bustling with people draped in garments marked by both style and statement. In this world, medieval society, whether knowingly or in subtle rebellion, allowed room for gender expression to flourish, challenging and reshaping notions of what beauty meant in hushed tones and hidden corners. Court life pulsed at the heart of these expressions, where fashion blurred the lines of traditional gender attire. Noblemen in intricately embroidered tunics, bedecked with jewels and delicate fabrics, sported attire that today's audience might classify as feminine. These flourishes did not merely denote wealth, but redefined masculinity, casting beauty as an agnostic realm, unbound by binary confines. Among noble women, layers of cloth and corseted bodices could belide a subtle strength, where the carefully curated persona projected power and mystique. Their costumes, often detailed with patterns and colors that defied simplicity, cultivated a beauty that embraced complexity and authority, echoing the broader mandates of those in sway. The courts, alive with pageantry, also served as stages for performances and masquerades. In these whimsical spheres, the theatricality of gender became a playground for expression. Roles were fluid, costumes elaborate, Cross-dressing became a vehicle for satire, commentary, and, poignantly, a reflection on society's rigid expectations of performative dance over the norms that dictated public life. Moving through the pages of medieval text, literary works also dared to explore the fluidity of identity and beauty. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, or tales of heroic figures grappling with complex identities, found resonance in treating masculinity with vulnerability and humor. In these poetic stories, beauty took on layers of virtue and perceived flaws, opposing sharp-edged boundaries of gender with intricate narrative tapestries. Even ecclesiastical orders were not immune to these fluctuations, despite their rigid appearances. Monastic life, while steeped in discipline, existed in its own paradox simplicity of attire, masking a world where inner beauty and reflection offered transcendence, an invitation to grace without the constraints of gender. In art and iconography, angels served as the epitome of beauty free of earthly gender markers. Neither male nor female, their ethereal countenances celebrated a visage of purity detached from corporeal concerns, whispering hints of divine neutrality across stone and canvas. However, such expressions of fluidity were not without tension. Historians still argue to what extent societal allowances were genuine acceptance versus pragmatic necessity or spectacle. There was always a shadow of constraint, a tug-of-war between conformity and deviation, public opinion maintaining vigilance over personal divergence. The controversies and expressions echo into modern consciousness, where conversations about gender fluidity and beauty continue to challenge norms and expand awareness. As you step back into the present, consider how medieval nuances of gender expression resonate with today's kaleidoscope of identity, showing beauty's diversity as a timeless tapestry woven with intricate threads of courage and defiance. Within these medieval corridors, beauty reverberated beyond gender, a symphony of individuality and societal expectations, a dance still lively and poignant in our contemporary world. It reminds us to look beyond the constructs of identity, embracing expression in all its forms as a reflection of beauty's intrinsic relationship to the human spirit's boundless quest for understanding and acceptance. As you traverse the echoing halls of medieval society, where the weight of tapestries muffles, footfalls, and whispers carry tales of ancient edicts, you encounter the concept of sumptuary laws. These legal pronouncements, part control measure and part cultural directive, regulated the garb and adornment of classes, dictating who could wear which hues and how beauty could be visibly signified through attire. Step into the bustling heart of a medieval town, where merchants, nobles, and commoners weave through squares bustling with life. The colors and fabrics worn by passers-by aren't just choices of personal taste, they are dictated by a complex web of laws intended to maintain the societal hierarchy, keeping noble lords swathed in luxurious silks and vivid colors, while ensuring peasants were clad in homespun wools and earth tones. These visual markers reinforced the social fabric as tightly as any seamstress's stitch. Sumptuary laws served as societal levies against extravagance, designed ostensibly to preserve economic stability and protect social structure. They ensured that wealth and power were unmistakably visible, a tapestry of authority and privilege, manifest in every thread. Historians still debate whether these laws reflected moral imperatives against excess or were mere tools for reinforcing class distinctions. Nonetheless, the contrast in dress stitched together a narrative of wealth and power recognized at a glance. For the nobility, fashion was a banner of status. Rich brocades and velvets dyed with costly indigo or Tyrian purple became visual heralds of sovereignty and pride, declaring social standing as loudly as any spoken proclamation. Through these prints and patterns, beauty merged with symbolism. Sumptuous fabrics coaxed into forms that proclaimed lineage and influence. For those lower on the social ladder, the consequences of transgressing these sartorial boundaries were significant. A merchant caught in velvet or gold-threaded tunic could face fines or social censure, leading many to adhere closely to legislation with garments that fit within legal, if often drab limits. Only during special occasions might exceptions be made, allowing colours to flow through the populace like a wedding rainbow between stone walls, moments capturing fleeting vibrancy. Jewelry, too, was not left untouched. Regulations dictated not only the costliness of the materials but their very use. A pearl, a knight's ring, or a lady's coronet teach bore its own restrictions, marking boundary lines between acceptability and ambition, much like medieval fiefdoms. Gold, a precious beacon often reserved for the nobility, exemplified the weight of these laws as others were kept at arm's length from flaunting fineries perceived as out of reach. Yet, despite regulation, personal ingenuity often found ways to subvert and play within these legal frameworks. Clothes softened in subtleties, awaiting flair through inventive linings or concealed luxury in linings unseen until revealed. Conundrums arose, pushing against supposed certainties to create pockets of individual expression within imposed uniformity. Among many, these laws were silence written and unwritten contract between the public eye and individual ambition. Artists and poets might hint at the absurdities within their works, playing upon the restrictions that simultaneously concealed and highlighted societal disparity. The church itself occasionally wade into this domain, recognizing the morality entwined with attire. Monks and clergy, dedicated to humility and devotion, avoided opulence in their vestments practices that whispered importance not by fabric, but by modesty, a paradox of ornate simplicity, symbolizing beauty, refracted through service and spirit. As you leave behind the bustling markets and quiet homesteads tucked beneath medieval law's vigilant umbrella, reflect upon how these regulations spurred creativity while enforcing conformity. Today, the remnants of such control linger in discussions of fashion, class, and expression, stirring conversations on identity that cross the boundaries of time. Remember those sumptuary days as reflections in the mirror of history, where beauty regulated, yet resilient found its expression in creases of fabric, folds of culture, and ripples through the stream of time, mirroring humanity's ceaseless desire to declare itself uniquely seen and significantly heard. As the medieval world continues to unfurl around you, you find yourself drawn into a space where elegance is carved not only in stone and fabric, but in the intricate arrangement of hera, silent herald of status, style, and power. The artistry of medieval hairstyles unveils a story of identity and influence, where each twist and braid whispered its own ambitions and alliances across starlit halls and sunlit fields. Imagine the silhouette of a noblewoman as she sits by a window, her lady-in-waiting carefully twisting and intertwining strands into a complex braid, illuminated by the gentle glow of twilight, filtering through latticework. Hairstyles during medieval times were not merely personal choices, but elaborate expressions of social status and power. Consider the elaborate creations donned by the courtly elite. Coiffures soared toward heaven with intricate designs, reflecting an age where fashion was as much about stature as aesthetics. Hair was often styled to create height and drama, with structures built delicately using wire frames hidden within an arrangement, transforming their wearer into an emblem of grandeur that matched the soaring arches of the Gothic cathedrals and halls around them. For women, tightly wound ribbons, pearls, and veils threaded through braids whispered tales of opulence and meticulous care, marking stages of life from maidenhood to matrimony. The so-called escarbuncle style, where hair radiated out like a star, was a favored arrangement, blending utility and spectacle into one captivating muse. Such elegance was a testament to patience and the skill required to achieve the style, much like the work of a master artisan. Among kings and knights, hairstyles brimmed with masculine pride and knightly virtue, their mane often flowing as freely as their ideals on the tournament fields. Various cuts catered to practicality as much as fashion, short for battle readiness, while more elaborate curls and locks represented courtly refinement. These hairstyles conveyed a juxtaposition of strength and sumptuousness, creating an ideal visage of power that echoed through tales of chivalry and conquest. For clergy and the devout, hairstyles converged around simplicity and devotion. Tonsures offering humility mirrored the ascetic austerity expected within monastic enclosures, echoing faith within the shadowed cloister's hall, echoes an ever-present contrast to secular expression and splendor. Curiously, there were occasions when boundaries between the sacred and the stylish blurred. Hair shirts worn beneath luxurious garments mingled discomfort with devotion, turning penitence into a hidden layer beneath the surface of opulence. This dichotomy reflects the aspirations and struggles faced by those navigating the layered tapestry of expectations and devotion in places across Europe. Among the common folk, practical styles prevailed. Braidwork served both form and function, caught against windswept landscapes and pastoral endeavours. Elaborate styles were less common here, but no less significant in their simplicity, stitching together strands of everyday beauty with a kind of quiet dignity. In these spaces, each plait and knot reinforced community bonza, living heritage of local customs and familial traditions passed down from hand to hand. Yet even within imposed rankings and regulations, the human spirit sought personal expression. Perhaps subtle variations in shade created from the sun's kiss, or a touch of ash in the evening's twilight, lightened locks against convention, capturing that gentle swing between duty and desire. As you weave through medieval gatherings within your thoughts, holding the memory of these ancient hairstyles, reflect upon how beauty has been crowned throughout the ages. Just as a simple ribbon or pearl might have transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary, our modern sense of style continues to evolve, revisiting and redefining past traditions within today's global stage. The artistry of hair, in its complexity and simplicity, remains a timeless narrative of the search for identity and expression, a physical manifestation of power, poetry, and presence. Through flowing locks and braided ambition, the beauty holds a message across centuries, a whisper of elegance retaining its allure, threading both history and humanity into its continuous braid of timeless charm. As the medieval world continues to unfold its mysteries, you find yourself at the vibrant crossroads of trade and cultural exchange. Here, the relentless ebb and flow of commerce and the meeting of diverse cultures effect significant influence on beauty standards, dissolving borders and infusing fresh perspectives into the traditional tapestry of fashion and aesthetics. Picture the bustling docks of a medieval port, where ships from distant lands, laden with exotic goods, gently sway against the creaking of wooden piers. Sailors and merchants, with their colourful array of wares, gather from the corners of Africa, Asia, and the Ottoman Empire, and mingle with the local populace. Each new arrival carries with it not just spices and silk, but trends and notions of beauty, ripe for exploration and adoption. The spices of the East come with potent scents that tantalize and inspire the creation of perfumed oils, which swiftly integrate into European beauty rituals. Aromatic blends of frankincense, myrrh, and sandalwood cross the thresholds of domestic chambers, lending an air of the exotic to familiar routines. As fragrances swirled through manor halls and petite boudoirs, they whispered tales of lands far off, encouraging European nobility to embrace sandalwood-infused pomades and rose-scented balms as signals of sophistication and worldliness. Rich silks from China unfurl upon noble shoulders, their iridescent luster transforming simple garments into stunning works of art. The vibrant, shimmering hues reflect in garments that ripple like water. These textiles weave themselves into the very fabric of medieval court life, adopting and adapting patterns and styles that speak of opulence and allure. Silk, with its delicate threads yet resilient strength, becomes a symbol of opulence, desired by Mannion eternal reminder that beauty transcends mere geography. Fashion also absorbs influences from Moorish Spain, where the interplay of Christian, Muslim, and Jewish cultures creates a kaleidoscope of design. The geometric precision and captivating motifs, reminiscent of Islamic art, slip into the parlors and drawing rooms of European elites, where garments begin to reflect this artistic complexity. Cloaks and tunics, enhanced with gold-threaded lattices reminiscent of Andalusia, introduce fluid elegance and visual harmony, creating a fusion of utility and style that enriches European concepts of attire. But it is not only finery that migrated across borders. The art of adornment gains new dimension as well, with techniques such as kohl application for eyes accentuating allure with exotic charm a nod to the deserts of Arabia. This dark outline, an imported technique, illuminates aristocratic gazes, transforming eyes into pools of mystery and subtle seduction. As smoothly lined eyes peer through veils and wimples, a transformative echo of Cleopatra's gaze reverberates across medieval lands, diversifying the palette of beauty. Jewelry echoes these distant shores. The emergence of lapis lazuli from Afghanistan and ceramic beads from ancient China redefined color palettes and form, further enhancing Europe's familiarity with and desire for exotica. Empresses and queens wear jewels that tell of voyages, each spun thread and polished stone, a narrative of exploration and encounter. Adornments become tangible mural of history, bearing witness to connections forged in cross-continental exchanges. As these influences ripple through the courts, they create broad ripples in the cultural pond, fostering a dynamic exchange of ideals. The dialogue between East and West opens pathways not only for goods and merchandise, but for philosophies and concepts of beauty as well. The interplay between the imported and the indigenous lends a vibrant liquidity to expressions of self, ensuring that beauty standards remain in constant flux, evolving with each new whisper of cultural breeze. Reflecting upon this confluence of cultures, consider how the medieval world stands as testament to beauty's malleability, its tendency to adapt and embrace the exotic, inviting reimagining of identity through an expanded perspective. This blending of styles and influences creates a stunning portrait of medieval life, capturing both the spirit of exploration and the enduring desire for beauty, defined by curiosity and creativity. A portrait echoed in today's fashion runways and cultural crossroads. With these threads of past perfuming your thoughts, embrace the realization that beauty, like a river, changes course and form, welcoming the meeting of waters from every distant horizon. Its timeless allure rises from its ability to transcend time and place, creating connections across cultures, inviting us to partake in an ongoing journey without end, always moving, yet forever rooted in the essence of humanity. As twilight sets over a medieval landscape, you find yourself drawn to stories whispered through the ages, tales of fabled beauties whose allure captivated hearts and minds alike. These legendary figures, part history, part myth, wove their glamour-roused and sometimes tragic tales into the very fabric of the time, leaving indelible impressions upon the tapestry of medieval beauty standards. Imagine the hushed tones in a lord's hall, where bards regale noble gatherings with tales of Helen of Troy, the beauty whose face launched 1,000 ships. While she hailed from ancient Greece, her story transcended time and geography, becoming a touchstone for what it meant to be truly and devastatingly beautiful. Her tale of love, war, and its emotional toll echoed into the medieval era, cautioning listeners about the potent power that beauty wielded, a theme both enigmatic and alluring. Journey next to the windswept cliffs of Tintagel, where another legendary beauty casts her spell. The tragic romance of Tristan and Isolde tells of a love as intoxicating as it was doomed, a narrative that captured medieval imaginations with its blend of passion and treachery. Isolde, a figure of ethereal beauty and inner strength, embodied complexities that reached beyond mere physical allure, weaving a cultural narrative that underscored beauty's capacity to inspire both joy and sorrow. Then there's the Arthurian court, woven with mystique and chivalric ideals. Guinevere, whose graceful form and poise navigated the politics of Camelot, emerged not just as a queen, but as an emblem of beauty balanced with power. Her story, marked by love and betrayal, further fueled the image of a medieval woman whose beauty haunted knights, poets, and creators alike, shaping ideals with each telling. Carmen and other virtuous maidens, marked by their courage as much as by their fair voices or radiant faces, danced through the pages of epic rhymes and popular songs. The allure of these figures stood as symbols of blessed womanhood, rooted in devotion and articulated in courtly love. In a way, they presage the modern celebration of inner beauty, suggesting that the heart and soul are as essential to a captivating presence as the shell that holds them. Meanwhile, in the intricate shadows of Christian mysticism, Mary Magdalene, revered for her penitential beauty, illustrated the transformative power of grace, painting beauty in strokes of redemption and faith a mirror to the evolving ideas of piety and repentance popular throughout medieval religious narratives. Her duality of sinner and saint colored perceptions of the feminine divine, offering a template for mercy encapsulated in nuanced beauty. Historical figures, too, found their place in the annals of beauty. Figures such as Eleanor of Aquitaine and Elizabeth of York became synonymous with elegance and strength, their lives, stories of defiance and diplomacy, intertwined with manual beauty that held political weight as deftly as it charmed. They emblematically bridge the gap between reality and fiction, embodying medieval sophistication in action. Across kingdoms and over hills of legend, these fabled beauties carved their stories into the dreams and imaginations of medieval society, becoming the silken threads, weaving the borders of romance with loyalty and treachery with redemption. Their tales laid the groundwork for beauty standards that reached beyond mere appearance, inviting those who listened to borrow fragments of fantasy to enhance their reality. As our journey through the past brings these mythical figures into focus, we see reflections of present-day icons whose allure combined physical magnetism with charisma and human fallibility. The echoes of medieval beauties underscore that true allure weaves layers of complexity, dreams spun into narratives, legends that whisper their resonance through the ages to touch each new generation with aspirations as timeless as marble and as fresh as dew on a summer morn. In contemplating these legendary figures, remember that the enduring appeal of beauty is not just skin-deep, but deeply rooted in the myths and stories that allow us to glimpse the ever-challenging, yet brightly burning flame of our own humanity. Their legacies, immortalized across epochs, remain vibrant beacons, illustrating beauty's transformative power within the intricate storm of heart and history. As you wander through the intricate tapestry of medieval stories, you find yourself poised at the edge of an enchanting world where beauty intertwines seamlessly with the ideals of chivalry and courtly love. These romanticized notions defined much of medieval society, painting beauty with strokes of noble sacrifice, valorous deeds, and the soft glow of moonlit devotion. Imagine a grand medieval hall, its stone walls softened by velvet draperies and flickering candlelight, where nobles gathered to hear tales of knights and their lady loves. In this world, the ideals of courtly love elevated beauty beyond physical charm, casting it into the realm of the ethereal, where devotion and virtue were celebrated in equal measure. Chivalry, with its codes of conduct and honor, provided the framework within which these ideals took root. For a knight, true beauty resided not merely in the allure of his lady, but in the nobility of spirited action. Picture a knight riding forth as gallant deeds of arms unfolded, with his loyalty and dedication carving pathways through fascinating narratives of loyalty and unyielding promise. His lady's beauty was both a beacon and a mantle, inspiring feats of daring that would be embroidered into legend. Courtly love, as a social phenomenon, encouraged knights and nobles to express their affection in a manner marked by restraint and sublimity. It was an elevated form of expression, celebrating love unfulfilled as much as any victorious union. The lady, often unattainable, embodied an ideal of perfection that combined grace, wisdom, and beauty, an ethereal amalgam that transformed her into both muse and moral compass. The sonnets and odes crafted by troubadours drew upon these themes, building the narrative of courtly love into a multi-layered dance of longing and admiration. These compositions reflected a sophisticated interplay of desire and devotion, showering their subjects with accolades that lifted beauty from a reflection in glass to a celestial constellation twinkling in the tapestry of night. In this delicate balance between adoration and virtue, beauty also took on a collaborative dimension between genders. Women, glorified by their admirers' valor, mirrored these codes in their own lives by displaying qualities of discretion, loyalty, and intellectual depth, a medieval nod to inner beauty, so often championed in today's social narratives. Yet woven through these lofty ideals were also tensions, where real life could sometimes unravel the threads of fantasy. Jealousy and rivalry, like shadows beneath the moon's soft glow, occasionally rippled through courtly love's fabric, creating conflicts that provided rich fodder for the creators of sagas and epics. Historians continue to explore whether these faults were critiques of the system or simple human wrinkles in an otherwise grand design. Even the church contributed to these evolving notions of beauty, asserting a moral backdrop for love woven from virtue and restraint. In this mingling of spiritual guidance and courtly admiration, beauty became a mirror reflecting the values of an era rich in complexity and aspiration, offering glimpses into the higher ideals of humanity. You might envision tournaments held in grandiose settings, with knights vying for honor and favor beneath banners, bearing insignias interwoven with symbols of devotion. These festivals of chivalric theatre further intertwined beauty with valor set against the verdant backdrop of the land. As these ideals mingled with folklore and real-life inspirations, they crafted a legacy that transcends their own temporal roots. Today's tales of romance and heroism are inheritors of this medieval tradition, reminding us of beauty's connection to ideals both noble and aspirational. So as you take your leave of this courtly world, laden with lofty aspirations embraced beneath constellations of medieval tales, recognize how these stories, through their romantic armor and courtesies, still whisper vital truths about the human spirit. The resonance of chivalry's embrace and love's idealism remains, swaying across the ages, holding beauty as both challenge and inspiration, and a vowel of affection that weaves itself eternally into the heart's ever-beating tapestry. As the echoes of chivalrous tales fade into the tapestry of medieval life, a different form of acknowledgement emerges from the shadows: beauty competitions. These gatherings, though far removed from the glitz of today's pageants, were nevertheless vibrant events where beauty coaxed celebration and admiration from the onlookers, casting a unique spotlight on those vying for the title of fairest in the land. Picture a medieval fair, bustling with the vitality of traders, performers, and villagers, each stall a colourful display of craftsmanship and cheer. Nestled within this lively atmosphere, a beauty competition unfolds. Unlike the structured pageants we know today, these medieval contests were impromptu and community-driven affairs, where beauty was evaluated with a blend of whimsy and local custom. Amidst laughter and spectacle, beauty's fleeting allure found a moment of permanence, casting light upon those with the most captivating presence. Participants, often unaware they'd be considered, were informally judged, based on both physical allure and personal charm. The maiden whose rosy cheeks mirrored the hue of ripe apples might be praised by villagers as she danced beneath the boughs. At village gatherings, beauty contests unfolded in much quieter fashion, with judges assessing beauty not only by appearance, but by how well participants embodied local virtues. A well-played lute or a deft needlework could sway opinions, allowing personal talents to be woven into the fabric of beauty. Curiously, some contests extended beyond personal attributes, incorporating livestock and harvest displays. Here, prize-winning sheep or bountiful crops signified farmers' diligence, with accolades overlapping notions of beauty and prosperity. These contests celebrated the connection between beauty and bounty, acknowledging a broader interpretation of allure that went beyond human form to include the land's yield and the harmony within natura, full-bodied approach to beauty in its myriad forms. In certain courts, room was even made for less conventional beauty contests. Jesters might jest with reverse accolades, crowning a king of fools in parody, whereby beauty's absence became a matter of fun rather than exclusion. Reflecting human quirks and imperfections with a twinkle of mischief in the eye, a reminder that medieval merriment often balanced reverence with light-hearted banter. These competitions offered an opportunity for discourse on ideals, sometimes capped off controversies simmering in hot summer air. Historians still argue around the root purpose of these contests, whether they were earnest attempts to honor beauty, or more likely opportunities to rally community amidst the daily rhythm of medieval life. Additionally, people often view them as social mirrors, reflecting both aspirations and critiques of cultural norms regarding beauty. Prizes varied greatly, sometimes in the form of crafts or goods, other times in tangible prestige that could uplift or weigh heavily, depending on the social constructs of the day. Titles like Fairest of the Fair held currency well beyond victory, often bearing impact on matrimonial and social prospects, footnote of lasting consequence to an otherwise lively and mercurial contest. As the evening settled over these old-world gatherings, along with the intertwining aromas of roasting meat and blossoming wildflowers, the declared winners stood as the night's luminaries, figures frozen amid the movements of the crowd. Yet, beyond such transient accolades, the true rewards of these contests lay in the celebration of community and identity, emphasizing beauty not as mere superficiality, but as a reflection of individuality woven into shared experience. Through this lens, consider how the threads of medieval beauty contests continue to run through our own celebrations, social gatherings, and communal festivities. The mark they left upon history reminds us of beauty's multifaceted nature, revealed equally in a person's smile, an artist's handiwork, or an abundant harvest, each instance, a unique expression of grace and charm. The resonance of these age-old competitions thus persists across the ages, serving as both a snapshot of ideals past and a continuing dialogue that invites us to redefine and celebrate beauty in all its diverse, captivating forms. The air is heavy with the fragrance of incense and the whispers of ancient secrets as you move into a world where beauty interlaces with mythologistries and allegories that define, disrupt, and reimagine what it means to be truly beautiful. Through these whispered tales and grand narratives, the medieval mind sculpted ideals as varied as the landscapes they traversed, blending the fantastical with the tangible. Imagine yourself within the echoing halls of a medieval library, its shelves lined with volumes and scrolls, each containing sagas from lands both known and forgotten. Here, stories of mythological figures like Venus and Adonis flow across time, their archetypal allure continuing to enhance and challenge the notion of beauty with mystical vigor. These tales, reworked and retold in myriad cultural contexts, projected beauty as a force transcending earthly bounds, capable of igniting both wonder and caution. Dive into the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, where beauty is personified through muses whose presence inspired creative arts. The beauty of Calliope, the muse of epic poetry, or Thalia, the muse of comedy, transcends mere appearance, moving into an elevated realm where beauty intertwines with the power of creation itself. These narratives remind listeners that the expression of beauty is often a reflection of intellect and inspiration. From the depths of Norse mythology emerge figures like Freya, a goddess whose grace and mystique are only matched by her power. In her tales, beauty is an enchantment wielded with strength and cunning, a reminder that allure carries weight and agency within its fragility. Her golden tears and swan-plumed guise inspired reverence, painting beauty not only as aesthetic, but as a divine force threading through the fabric of the cosmos. Medieval Christian allegories also shaped perceptions of beauty, offering complex narratives centered around virtues and sin. Within religious texts, beauty becomes a dual-edged entity, capable of leading one to redemption or ruin. Figures like Eve, whose story resounds with themes of temptation and consequence, highlight beauty's potential to inspire both creation and destruction, fostering a conversation reflecting humanity's perpetual struggle with idealistic adherence. The Arthurian legends bring their own allegorical fare, with the Grail as an emblem of ultimate beauty veiled in mystery. As knights pursued this elusive chalice, the quest itself mirrored humanity's eternal search for beauty and odyssey, demanding the noblest virtues and the purest hearts. Each challenge encountered along the way underscores beauty's profound intricacy, illustrating its roots deep within the soul rather than upon the surface alone. Legends of enchantresses like Morgan Le Fay illustrate another dimension where beauty's portrayal becomes a figure of transformation and metaphoric significance. Within these tales, beauty appears both as enchanting and dangerous, a nod to its unpredictable and transformative nature. While these stories captivate with their elegance and complexity, they also serve as societal barometers, chronicling shifting perceptions on gender, power, and morality. Historians still debate whether these allegories reinforced existing norms or subverted them through fantastical escapism, a blend of historical and cultural dialogue transcending centuries. As candles flicker low, casting shadows that ripple like water onto ancient stone walls, consider how these myths and allegories live on as touchpoints for beauty's narrative. They have sown seeds that continue to germinate within contemporary culture, stirring the imagination as filmmakers, authors, and artists reinterpret these timeless tales into narratives steeped in beauty's ongoing diversity. Within these mythic realms, beauty encompasses more than meets the eye, inviting each of us to consider how the stories we tell shape the ways we perceive beauty, with its enchantment and complexity inviting timeless dialogues, spanning the here and now. This interweave between legend and lore remains a reminder that as much as beauty is captured in fleeting appearances, It also thrives in the stories we share, perpetually rediscovered within each new telling. As you traverse the reflective corridors of medieval times, where candlelight dances off stone walls and echoes linger from learned discourses, you encounter the timeless pursuit of debating beauty standards. In this tumultuous era, with its mixture of strict societal roles and bursts of inventive thinking, the nature of beauty was not merely accepted or dictated, it was a matter ripe for discussion and dissent. Imagine medieval scholars gathering in bustling monastic scriptoria, where quills scratch over parchment under the quiet politics of scholarly debate. Here, amid stacks of tomes documenting earthly knowledge and divine decree, conversations began to murmur about the nature of beauty, its origin, its impact, and its ideal portrayal. Such debates unfolded with fervor, pondering not just what was considered beautiful, but why humanity gravitates to certain aesthetics over others. One significant debate of the time revolved around the balance between inner and outer beauty, a duality woven through all levels of society. In monastic communities, where the focus was on spiritual fortitude, discussions often highlighted inner virtue as the true embodiment of beauty. They argued that the physical form was a mere vessel for the soul, secondary to the radiant qualities of piety, wisdom, and Gracian ideal that spirited its way into broader cultural consciousness, drawing contrasts between body and spirit. Beyond the cloisters, noble courts became forums for deliberation on beauty's external manifestations. French and Italian courts in particular served as crucibles for trends, their influence extending across European territories. Debates over the merits of fashionable appearance found their stage amidst the elaborate textiles and aesthetic flourishes that defined class and influence. Nonetheless, questions persisted over whether such indulgences detracted from inherent virtue or amplified societal values into celebratory expressions. The lore of chivalry and courtly love also wove complex threads into discussions. People mused over the tension between individual desire and collective ideals, asking themselves whether beauty was a quality to aspire to or admire from a distance, couched in layers of symbolism. The courtly literature of the time reflected these musings, painting beauty as elusive and multifaceted an ideal, judging its participants as much as they judged it. Philosophers and theologians engaged in profound debate over the more abstract elements of beauty, particularly within the academic circles fostered by the burgeoning universities of the age. Thinkers questioned beauty as an objective standard. They debated its existence, independent of personal perception, exploring whether beauty ought to be defined through mathematical symmetrias, exemplified by the golden ratio, through the experiential joy it elicited. The role of the commons in this discourse cannot be overlooked. Among the local folk, who lived closer to the rhythms of nature and necessity, beauty standards were often grounded in practicality and survival. Here, the debates were less formal but no less significant, leaning heavily on resilience and natural allure against the backdrop of everyday life's demands. Historians still wrestle with these intricate debates, their arguments echoing through modern discussions about beauty's function and form. The medieval perspectives often offer hallmarks of truth that continue to resonate in today's dialogues about self-image, worth, and cultural ideals. Thus, as the soft murmur of disputation fades into the annals of history, you realize that the legacy of medieval beauty standards does more than illustrate past ideals. It lays bare a universal pursuit to define and redefine what truly constitutes beauty. As you return to the present, let these ancient debates remind you that beauty is not static. It is a reflection, ever-changing, of humanity's quest for understanding our place within the aesthetic dimensions of the world. Within these eternal conversations lie opportunities to appreciate beauty, not merely as a fixed summit to climb, but as a landscape as varied and inspiring as the human soul, inviting exploration and reflection anew at each turn of time's page. As the murmurs of medieval discourse settle like dust after a storm, enveloping you in a contemplative quiet, you find yourself reflecting on the entirety of this vivid historical journey through beauty standards. Across the cobbled paths of medieval Europe, and through the echoing halls of castles and cottages alike, the quest for beauty has served as both mirror and musea canvas painted with desires, ideologies, and the intimacy of lived experiences. In your mind's eye, picture the entire panorama of medieval beauty, each facet refracting the light of human aspiration, like the facets of a jewel, from the pale, unearthly complexions sought by the nobility to the robust vigor admired in peasants, from the ethereal idealizations of love-gilded tales to the pragmatic necessities of daily life. Beauty flourished in myriad forms. It was a harbinger of cultural values, entwined with social status yet dancing to both personal rhythm and collective storytelling. These generations-old ideals, contemporaneous debates, and enduring myths have walked hand in hand through time, quietly evolving, yet perpetually reflecting the essence of humanity's constant re-evaluation of beauty. As your journey wends its way through memories of gilded halls and scented gardens, consider beauty's role not only as a quiet companion to power and legacy, but as a tender witness to human evolution. In envisioning how the scars of age were worn as badges of honor, and how feats of chivalry were sung to life everlasting, recognize the thematic thread within this medieval portrayal, harmonious refrain of beauty's duality. It embraces both the fleeting and eternal, whispering from ancient tapestries into modern-day reveries that human dignity and unity are sculpted not just by sight, but by soul and spirit. As the medieval tale unfurls its final notes, bathed in the celestial glow of moonlight where the past caresses the future with its endless narrative, let the soft reminder encourage gratitude for the diversity that girds our own society's embrace of beauty today. The continuum from medieval ideals to modern interpretations invites you to explore what endures and what morphs anew with cascading grace. Feel the gentle rhythm of the universe as it carries these stories onwards. For beauty, in all its complexity and rekindling antiquity, is less a destination and more a journey. An endless exploration of what it means to be human, reflective, beguiling, and ever in pursuit of 1,000 paradoxes made whole. And so, as the candlelight flickers low in the evening's quietude, and the harmonious echoes of history settle amongst the shadows, may your own introspective journey start anew with each dawn. Rest gentle in the assurance that beauty's mysteries and marvels shelter the heart's most reflective dreams, woven into life's vast tapestry. Muse as the medieval whispers transform to lull your senses, embracing you in the luxury of restful tranquility. With the storied past as your beloved companion, watch as these dreams drift across sleep's merciful horizon, gentle harbingers of peace nurtured by stories from across the ages. The gentle sigh of contentment upon the fading echoes of these timeless tales bid you a restful night ahead. Sweet dreams.